right. Never learned to see the light. Having sweet on you, babe, I can't hide it anymore. I can tell you some.
Hey, what's happening? We are here today, episode 2 of the Oh Buddy Music Show, and we have a special guest today. His name is Mr. Noah Freeman, and he is most notably with the band Kindred Valley, but he is definitely a musician in his own right. How are you doing today, Noah?
I'm doing good, Todd. How about yourself?
Oh, I can't complain, man. I'd say it's sunny, but it's not.
Yeah, it's a little dreary here as well, but
Yeah, are you in West Virginia right now?
yes, sir.
Yeah. What city in West Virginia are you?
Huntington, West Virginia.
Huntington. Okay, so yeah. I don't have a lot of history with West Virginia. I've been there once. I was friends with the family that was from West Virginia. And
Okay.
That's so.
Do you remember what part you went to?
Ironically enough, they're from Grafton.
Okay, yeah, sweet. Yeah.
So I had heard of the Grafton Monster before hearing it in the song by Kindred Valley.
Yeah. I would say that's a pretty accurate representation of most places in West Virginia. Huntington is sort of like a bigger outlier. There's not like, it's kind of its own thing in West Virginia just because it kind of is by nature of being one of the bigger cities. But most places are like Grafton, smaller town vibes, things like that.
The only time I've been there, we did the whole whitewater rafting deal with
Awesome.
the Gully River Gorge, or I forget what it was even called. I apologize.
No, you're fine.
But that was it. But and it's weird because and we can go into it, but like the world kind of thinks of West Virginia as like the biggest blue collar place in America, I think. I mean, would you agree with that?
I certainly don't have a perspective of what the rest of the world might think about West Virginia, but I certainly would say that I wouldn't. I certainly welcome that opinion. I don't know if the rest of the world would be surprised by welcoming that opinion or not, but it is I would say that's pretty accurate. Most of the people here were raised on blue collar work or do blue collar work themselves. There's not a whole lot of like legacy families of like white collar or even a lot of history of like having degrees in families. So even if you have a degree, it's probably built on your family's blue collar work at some point or another.
Yeah, somebody's blood, sweat, and tears
Yeah.
went right to the bank on that one. I mean, it's I mean, you can even look at like say the Hunger Games, insanely popular, and I mean the worst place was basically Kentucky, West Virginia.
Yeah,
in a futuristic.
It's crazy that I mean, like, and people get surprised by that, and they're like, how could these places look like these? And Hunger Games is a perfect example. People are like describing these third world conditions, and I don't know. Those are really harken back to maybe some of the worst eras of the coal mine town days. You know what I mean? Like they don't look in that movie. It's really funny because I mean, my wife and I had watched those a couple months ago just as kind of like a rerun for that new one that came out. And we were talking just about how it's really not that far off from where West Virginia, Kentucky, Appalachia was just like 100 years ago, even. But people look at it and they're like, what is this futuristic landscape? It's not the future.
It's
the
rural
past,
Kentucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're native son of West Virginia, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Always born and raised.
Yeah. And are you from Huntington as well, or?
So I moved down here for college and then stayed for a girl. And but I'm from an hour and a half up north, from a small town, a lot like Grafton. Town of about maybe max couple thousand people, I would think. Ravenswood, West Virginia. I don't even know if I'm giving it too much credit saying it's a couple thousand. It's a small place. It's a square mile, and but it's home. It's where I'm from. But I do live in Huntington now. But I was raised 18 years of my life there in Ravenswood, West Virginia.
What is that like? I mean, as a young man, I mean, do you feel isolated?
Uh, we were talking a little bit before we recorded. There's almost a market on like hating things, and I think there for a while as a young man, like leaving a small town that I didn't feel like necessarily had a lot of what I thought at the time I wanted. You know, at the time I was going to Marshall for journalism school, and I don't even know what I was thinking about doing after that. I had no plans really. It was just go to Marshall, go to journalism school. I had some friends who came down here, and I was really excited, just about kind of being in a bigger place. So I think at the time there was resentment because Ravenswood was just not that, and that was what I was looking forward to. But I think more recent years, I talk like it's been like a decade or something. It's only been like 5 years, 5, 6 years, but more recently, I've just kind of had this appreciation, especially revisiting now, for what it is. And it's a town that provided exactly, I think, what I needed at the time. I mean, I literally could not be the person I was without it. And all in all, I mean, I didn't have any terrible experiences. I mean, was it like a vibrant music community that fostered like a love and a passion for live music? No, but is any small town with just a few thousand people doing that? You know what I mean? It's hard. People are struggling. I think I look at that town much more now as people who, it's kind of like a village of people. You know, those people do what they can because they're all they got. You know, it's easy in a place like Huntington to find people to play with. There's a million people getting kicked out of, or not a million, but 100 people getting kicked out of bands every year. And you know,
Right.
in this tri-state area,
There's college as well, so you know everybody's a musician in college.
Yeah, and
right?
every year there's an influx of a couple thousand new people that decide to enroll, and a couple hundred people that decide to move here permanently, probably from like grad school. I mean, we have a pretty high retention rate, so there's always an influx of new culture and new things coming, relatively compared to even a small town like Ravenswood. So here it really did feel, as silly as this town of like 40,000 people sounds, it felt like New York City to me coming. But that almost put Ravenswood in a light, was like, well, how could Ravenswood ever fulfill this? There's like an industry around bringing new things here all the time, just by nature of it being a college town. And this area also does have a little bit more of a live music scene going than other areas in West Virginia. Ravenswood was very good to me. I think young me would not have agreed with that at all, but young me was just bitter about everything, as young men often are.
Young you wanted to take on the world.
Yes. I was young and filled with rage, and I didn't really have a point of direction for it. And so I think I was just blaming the people who, where I came from, because I was like, well, certainly it's their fault, not mine.
So where does music fit into all that?
Music was mostly, you know, in the heat of the pandemic was really when I made the final jump to Huntington. I was back and forth for a couple semesters through 2019, kind of deciding if I wanted to go here or there, really flip-flopping back and forth. And then the heat of the pandemic hit, and I was like, if I'm going to be locked down anywhere, I need to be somewhere else. And so I went to Huntington, and there really wasn't much music going on at all, save for some, there were some local church groups that were putting together like big live music productions, because they were still able to do these live streams. And I knew a few people who were getting involved in some. And I had recently stopped doing church production, things like that, not too long before. But it was the live music that was happening at the time, in a time where no one was doing live music. And so I found myself back in it, purely for the love of the game at that point, just because I hadn't really found myself established in this community yet at this point. So I didn't even have a whole lot of connections, but I was dying to make some. And so I found myself into a college group that was doing worship music on Wednesday nights. And I was working with them. They were Baptist Campus Ministries, Marshall University. Still know those guys. Rob, the guy who's in charge of it, I actually knew him from Ravenswood. That's so I guess we're getting into why now I don't necessarily look into it in a bad light. Like, these guys kind of guided me to Huntington. And Rob, Ely, and his wife Beth, I knew them all the way from Ravenswood, and they had recently, or not so recently, I guess, taken over BCM here in Huntington, invited me out, and just kind of were letting me play music and let me figure it out, and trying to just maybe hope that I would stick around. And so I did for a little bit. And it's actually where I met the first other member of the band that I had met, and that was Brett McCoy, our drummer. And then through that, me and Brett had already known Blake, and Brett and I were just basically signing up for like every live music opportunity that we could at that point. You could have put it, we were signed up for bluegrass stuff, jazz stuff. I mean, it was just everything under the sun. Him and I were trying to just play as much music as possible. And so then we had heard that Blake, Brett's friend, was trying to write music, and they were just kind of hitting a wall with something one night, and they invited me over, and I think I ended up like quitting most of the groups after that night. We just decided to keep playing, just us three. And I think that it's been that, I mean, ups and downs, but for the most part, that's pretty much been, I don't think I've enrolled in anything else really since then. Not quit anything else since then. But yeah, that's kind of where it all kind of happened. It was a whole lot of just rapid fire joining things and then finding the thing.
I mean, honestly, the whole Kindred Valley thing seems a little rapid fire. I mean, and I don't mean that in a negative. No. I feel like when you start, you guys have come a long way. Kindred Valley has a big sound, man. Yeah. You just need that right arena to play that, right?
Well, that's the dream. Kindred Valley, it definitely feels like it depends on when you ask me. I mean, certainly it has gone by so fast, and I always feel a little guilty sometimes whenever we talk to people around the same size and they describe what their experience has been getting to that level. And certainly there are people who post one video and get super viral, but whenever you're in that, whenever you're around a lot of working musicians who maybe aren't so fortunate, and we're trying to do the same thing as these other working musicians, and you kind of see what they had to do to get here, and then maybe what you might have in store for yourself. It can be a little daunting, and then you can also feel a little guilty about what you did. But I think what I love about that class of working musician that we run into a lot that's done that is, these people are building their audiences grassroots style. And I think in a way because we've not really went viral, we've been able to do that as well, even though it's still happening at a pretty rapid rate. We like to think that we're trying to build it in a grassroots sort of way, sort of like the people who are here are in it for the long haul, hopefully.
Right. Because, I mean, you really literally are very DIY with everything, correct?
Yes. Up to this point, it's been just all in-house booking. We have yet to play a show that we ourselves didn't book. So, and hopefully, I'm not saying that I'm not looking for that to change, because it's the DIY stuff is, artists are not joking when they say that it's hard. I mean, it'll break you, because you'll send out like 1,000 emails and nobody will reply. I
am very familiar with the crickets or the rejection.
And then whenever you decide to make that jump to go full time, and all that's standing in your way of like, we've had to cancel gigs before because no one would email us back about what time we were supposed to be there. And that stinks whenever it's like people are messaging me asking about this show. I have bills to pay. I've got 4 other guys in this van that I have to pay for. I mean, like it gets a little daunting whenever you get out there and it's like, this venue just won't talk to me. And all that is, that's all that's standing in the way is this communication barrier, which you said you're aware of. It's the communication barriers and artists are also notoriously terrible for it too. So
I don't know, it's been 4 months since we had this play.
Yeah. I was going to say, artists are also notoriously terrible for it. So
we all are. Trust me. I got teenagers. I got real life, man.
It's a wonder anything ever gets planned at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but so when you say you're talking about how venues aren't responsive or whatever. I mean, how often do you run into a wall with a venue? I mean,
honestly, if you book a show, most of those venues are great, 1,000% phenomenal. I think we've only ever canceled one show just because we couldn't get a hold of a venue. At post booking the show, literally wouldn't just respond to us. And that was one show, like I think more than a year ago, that we just cite as kind of like a what the heck was that, like freak accident sort of thing, because it literally things like that haven't happened. I mean, and most venues, I would say most venues want to make money. Venues want to have a good show. That's what is another part of like is also on the artist's responsibility to understand is like I'm not one of those artists that constantly thinks that the venues are like trying to rip you off. That's just not been my experience. I mean, a lot of venues are artist ran. Like a lot of these guys are former artists that wanted to be artists. They understand what it's like. So, and I've played everywhere from like, not everywhere, I guess. I've played relatively medium-sized venues to absolute small, just hole-in-the-wall venues. And I know what a lot of those margins are like. I go and visit a little dive that has live music every Wednesday here in Huntington. I know what their margins are like. They're not making hand over fist on the regulars that are coming in here and drinking anyways. They're paying you $100 because they like your music to come in here and play acoustic. You know what I mean? Things like that. Venues, I think there's a small fortune to be made if venues and artists were like a little more collaborative.
Oh, I agree completely.
Yeah, because I think there's a little bit of like a natural like jadedness that comes along with it. I think that both parties feel because they've got burned by like a venue one time or something like that. Thankfully, we had plenty of experiences with like really great venues before that one weird one ever happened. And so we were able to tell ourselves like, it's just a freak accident.
Yeah, the guy that I interviewed for the last episode. He was like, "Yeah, we just don't put ourselves in that situation. We know the pitfalls. We just don't let it happen."
Yeah. It's one of those mistakes you only make once.
Exactly.
It's like, all right, from now on, we're gonna have a little more assurances, and you just don't take things personally. I think that was my biggest thing in letting go of things. It was just like most things I'll just say the music business because I don't really know any other business. Most things in the music business are not personal. Just because are most of the things that you do personal? No. It's just the decision that you make based on convenience or like what's right for you and yours. It's usually not a big deal. If you didn't get picked for that lineup, it's probably not a shade or it's not meant to be a jab thrown at you. If you didn't get booked for that show, if they didn't get back to you, people are busy. I miss, who knows what great opportunity I've missed an email for. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just send them another one, give it a little bit, send them another email, reach out, and don't take it personal if they email you back right away that next time. You know what I mean?
It's the squeaky wheel gets the grease concept.
Yeah. Some of the best shows we've ever had. And venues are great. It's usually getting a hold of each other in a consistent line of communication, both on the artist and the venue side. And that's been difficult for us sometimes, but like some of our best shows have been shows that like took us kind of a long time to get booked. But, the right people will still make sure that the right things happen, even if they're not maybe the best at responding to an email.
So on the flip side of that, how does it feel when it's a dead show?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So those are still, those still happen. I think people come to some like really packed out show and then they're like, oh man, what's it got to be like feeling this way every night? And I'm being like, man, I wish I knew. It can get I think people see some of your bigger shows and then they think that a lot of those are like that. And it's really kind of weird because you can get whiplash. And there was an example, like we played at the Burl not too long ago. And there was like, I think we got just a little shy of 300, if not 300 people in there for the indoor show, which was the most that we had ever pulled off with. And then we were there with Hunter Flynn. Great show, great energy, awesome crowd. We love playing there. The night before, or maybe it was the weekend before, I can't remember which one, probably for the best. One of those shows before, we had like 4 people in there. And a couple weeks before that, we played somewhere where people smoke inside, and the only people who were there were people who were smoking inside in the room next. Like they weren't even there to listen to us. And so the first like 10 times that happens, it really stinks. And I think sorry about my cat.
Oh no, you're
That's Pete.
Like I said, we're casual, man.
He the first like 10 times that happens, it's really like, oh, I should probably quit. I should probably
Yeah.
not. I should probably
What am I
not be
doing
doing
here?
this. This is stupid. I'm like 4 states away. I quit my job, my salary job, to be here, and now I'm in a van with 4 other guys and 1 girl, and all of us dudes stink. And we've like, because we've been sitting in a van for like 7 days. I'm hot and cold every 5 minutes. Like all you like start listing every gripe that you've ever had, all the way from like your back pain to like the fact that you're not eating well to like the bad pay or whatever. You like think of everything, and then you have one amazing show the next one, and it's like, oh, this is why I do it. And eventually, even those low ones, I'm not going to say that they don't still stink, because they do. They do definitely still stink. But it's, you start to just understand that it's the nature of the beast. Some of these shows no one's going to be at, and you start to like look at it. And I like to think that we just collect it as data, and hopefully it never happens in the same way again. Like, you know, we look, well, of course it didn't work out. It was a Tuesday in a suburb in the Midwest. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's why no one showed up.
And albeit those are factors.
Yes, yeah. So you start to, there's a little bit of responsibility that you as the artist have to take for some of those shows, because it's, the venues can only be what they are. They can't change. You know what I mean? You're the variable. So you have to, all right, we can't get this close to the camera. Yeah, I just saw him sneaking closer and closer. I was hoping that he would maybe turn around.
You'd start seeing the ball reach.
Yeah. The venue is responsible for their own local pool, because they're connected to the local area and you are not. But as far as like connecting, you're the one, for some reason you booked this show, so you must think that there's some reason for you to be playing there. So you need to be making an effort as well as an artist to connect with whatever supposed audience you think you might have there. And if it's no audience, you need to figure out how to get one before you get there. And I now that's different for every area, but every area has a news station that needs air to fill, and they will happily, like most places will let you call in and say, Phil, like just be like, hey, there's an event going on. I mean, most of your local radio stations have a section for that in their week anyways, where they'll just, you don't even have to get on the radio. You can just tell them, hey, I have this thing, would you care to announce it? And that's something that people don't think about. But a lot of small towns, if you're going to be booking small towns, people listen to the radio. Do that. Find local. Kindred Valley did this. I was in charge of doing this in our earlier days. We would join local Facebook groups, and like Morgantown, West Virginia was the first show that I did this. I remember we joined live Morgantown, West Virginia music, and I just posted about our event and like found other artists and other venues, and other people was like, would you mind sharing this? Those are free things that you can do that promote your show and build an audience in that area. That is something that a venue can't necessarily do for you. And it wouldn't make sense for them to. Now, having other people advertise for you is even better, because I mean, having someone else advocate for you says more than you advocating for yourself, just in terms of advertisement. But these are there's things that like, I think people think that it's just like, oh, well, I paid for a $20 Facebook ad and it didn't work. But you know, there are free things that you can do that are infinitely more valuable, that are grassroots and that keep and retain people, get them to the show. And not only that show, but other ones. I mean, some of the best fans that we have are from like people who shared us in a Facebook group. And like a camp Facebook group is one of the first fans that we gained from a camp Facebook group. Someone else posted us in there, was like, hey, if you like camp, you might like them. And then a bunch of those people from that camp Facebook group showed up to our very first show just on a whim. I mean, that was free. That was absolutely free. And those people come to every show, and I see them, and I spot them out, and I point them out. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that the artist, it has a little bit more to do in the way of like actually getting people there. The regulars will come to the venue no matter what. You're the product.
The venue's going to put out the same amount of energy no matter who it is.
Yeah. They're always, if 1 million people are there, they'll sell drinks. If 5 people are there, they'll sell drinks. Right. They're going to, and if it's a Saturday night, they'll book their main sound guy. If it's a Tuesday, they're going to book their side sound guy. That's not changing for you no matter what. They operate, yeah, it's the same cost, it's the same operating most of the time. I've not ran into many venues who change it up just for some random Joe Schmo, because they've seen people. Another thing about these venues is they've seen people come through who've blown up. They're not new to that either. I mean, like Duke's Indie is a perfect example. Duke's Indie has seen tons of massive artists come through who have played there for probably a pretty low amount,
a paltry amount of money, to be honest.
But then blown up later. And so Duke's Indie is not impressed by your recent viral moment, or they shouldn't be. I guess I won't speak for them, and I'm not their spokesperson, but they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be impressed by your flavor of the month thing. You know what I mean? So they know the business, they know what's right usually for them, and if they don't, you can't change that either. So you have to focus on what you can do as the artist. That business is always going to do what they can, or won't do. So it's up to you to decide, do you want people there at your show or not? And I think too many people want to just I get that it would be cool to do it like Bob Dylan did and just randomly show up in coffee shops and bars and people really enjoy it. It's just not the nature of the beast anymore.
Too many folks out there. Somebody's gonna bitch about it. They don't want to hear it. How dare you?
Yeah, I mean, you go to Greenwich Village. Are they doing that now there? You know what I mean? It's not.
No, they're get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if there's very many places on the planet that you can go and just play and someone's going to be like, you're going somewhere, kid. I don't know if that's happening.
But it's even when you mention Duke's, and this is a good phenomenon to even as a place to play now, Duke's is pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've been going to Duke's long enough that I've seen the shift where 30 people show up for an artist on a Friday to where they're now sold out every weekend, no matter who it is, so it's obviously a good place to go.
I've been seeing a lot of people post about them recently, just how much they've enjoyed playing there, and a lot of really packed nights recently. I've been impressed. It's been pretty awesome to see.
Because that's where I was introduced to you. You opened for India Ramey, yes. Solo style.
Yeah, that was she's awesome. That was my first exposure to her, and I just didn't know what to expect. I'm not as super plugged in, I guess, as I should be, because I felt stupid almost after she performed and I didn't know who she was, because I was like, this is right up my alley. How could I not be more tuned into that? So shout out to her. She was phenomenal. And
she's one of my absolute favorites. She's actually, I'm trying really hard to get her on here. She's in California doing some stuff right now, and then she's going to come back, and hopefully I can get her on here. Man, I love India Ramey. But anyway, back to you playing that show, and it's a whole thing where even especially when you go to smaller shows, you get an opening act, you get somebody you've never heard of, and you're honestly, and I hate to say this, your expectations are pretty low, right? I mean, you have to admit, you're like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, there's a certain level of okay, we're gonna cut this guy a little bit of he's probably just a local guy who knows the owner, maybe something you kind of just expect maybe background. And
you do get some of that there. And then, but man, you came up and you just had something to say, and it was just you really, you drew people in with your story of how, hey, you know what, I'm in a band and, we do okay, but man, I got bills to pay, and I'm out here, missing my family and stuff. And it was I was felt bad, and then I was like, okay, I'm done. I usually buy merch from everybody just because that's the kind of guy that I am. I support artists, you buy merch, everyone. And man, you had shagged ass out of there and everything. I'm like, God, I can't do nothing for this guy. And that was the moment though, when you were, you were up there talking, and it was man, this is the guy I want to try to get on here, because you impressed me with, and this is why I kind of went with the blue collar thing. Forgive me, I get a little stream of consciousness here.
No, I'm following. I promise you, I'm following.
Because of what you did and what you said, it was like it's, and I don't want to sound chest thumpy Joe Rogan-y masculinity thing, but to me it was masculine because you were like, hey, I got a need. I'm going to sacrifice. I'm going to pick up my bag of tools and I'm going to go to this town and look for work, or I'm going to do this. And to me, that's actually what masculinity is. But it's a very blue collar thing because it's a thing that I've done. I worked in construction for 35 years, and I'm missing trick or treat because I'm 4 hours away in a hotel, shit like that. But that's the stuff you do. And that impressed me, and that was one of the reasons that I found everything that you had to say captivating to me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that. I think, and I grew up from a union town where the town still is pretty much dependent on the labor supply of the aluminum factory, and so I grew up understanding that these things are kind of like sacrifices. I saw people have to make sacrifices all the time to be able to provide for their families in that way. And so it's not been very foreign to me. And there for a while, I even worked in that same factory while still working or living in Huntington. And so I was driving an hour and a half back and forth to this factory to work 12-hour shifts. And so I was missing, I feel like, just as much then as I am now, because I would go and stay there for like 3 or 4 days to work 12-hour shifts and then just go home and crash for a couple hours. And then they were rotating, so I'd be on midnights days. And I don't know, honestly, that was just, I was missing just as much of home, if not more, than I am now. And the whole masculinity thing, I felt like, there is a era of kind of like nowadays being confused about what that's supposed to mean or what that's supposed to look like, or who gets to decide what that looks like. And I came from a place where I saw what masculinity was, and I don't even know if it would look the same there if you went there now, if those guys would act the same or still be the same. But the men that I grew up around were real men. They weren't concerned with like, they weren't on Facebook like crying about the Snow White movie or like, getting upset about this or that. These were men who went to work and they did right things. They stood up for weak people. They stood up for what was right, and they didn't look down on people. I mean, those were all values that I ascribed to being more masculine. And so I've just tried to, I really do try to emulate a lot of the people that I saw around me growing up in small town Ravenswood, just because those guys were always very commendable in the way that they operated, very morally consistent. Maybe I don't always agree with them and the things that they think, but they're very morally consistent, and nothing like a lot of the men that you see nowadays. I mean, these were guys that like love their wives, love the value of hard work, love providing for their family, and love standing up for what's right. I mean, like these guys, you ask them at any point and they're like, no, I love standing up for what's right. Me and my principles. I mean, like these guys were like hardcore, like almost like blue collar philosophers in the way that they were like, no, this is what's good for me, and not just me, but like my fellow working man. I mean, and I grew up in a pro-union town, so it was very much like not just what's good for me, but what's good for the rest of these guys working here, because what's good for those guys is what's good for their families. And I don't know, that's manly to me. Not being able, not just like, I mean, forming like a workers' army with your buddies to provide for you and your family. That's pretty cool to me, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, it like you hit on it's about doing the right thing.
Yeah,
honestly, and that's what it is. And people have that skewed these days, but I digress. So you were talking about manly men in Uniontown. So I'm going to circle back around to grandfathers.
Yes.
Because that was one of the other things you performed the sunny days.
Yes.
And talking about your, yes, if everybody had a papaw. And I'm like, well, I called mine pawpaw.
Yeah.
But he was a union electrician. He was a man's man. He was a little man, but you were afraid of shit of him, But at the same time, you didn't feel unloved, And when you were talking about yours and everything, and it just totally kind of mirrored on like my one of my loves of music comes from him, because he would put a radio on and it would always be country music all day long, 24 hours a day. He would only turn it down not off. He would turn it down at night.
All right.
Just so people could sleep, but he did not care. And I'm kind of the same way, and I get all my love of stuff from him. So I really connected with that one as well. And then y'all did that with Kindred Valley again, I saw when I saw you play.
Yes, the Sunnier Days song.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. I think a lot of my relatives, whenever I think, especially my papa, because he's one of those guys who's like just one of these massive guys. I mean, this guy had like tree trunks for arms, huge hands, and was just one of these figures that you almost like think of like these mythological like figures, but also still like, I heard he was mean as a copperhead. I never knew that side of him. You know what I mean? But and he was a hard working factory man his whole entire life. I mean, you couldn't, and he was proud of that. And I don't know. Yeah, it's that's the example. I mean, that's certainly what I hope other people think of whenever they think of real men. Because if not him, I mean, I don't know who is. You know what I mean? I'm just out here pretending to be him or trying.
Right. I'm just trying to be maybe just a little bit better, in my own way. Exactly.
And, yeah, Kindred Valley recently, we have started doing that song with them because we've been introducing some newer writing. And I was still trying that song out at the time whenever I had done it at Duke's Indy. Was still kind of seeing whether or not that was something that I wanted to try out live. And I think that had maybe been the second or third time that I'd done it, that time that you might have seen me in. Kindred Valley has been let me do it during our acoustic portions of our set. And it's been really nice to see people have a lot of connection to that song and feel a lot of connection to that song.
Yeah, it's a good one for sure. So then, does Noah Freeman have a solo career? Or sometimes I feel like you're about to go off the edge of the board, but you're not quite ready to dive into the water. Or...
So I have a bit that I usually say at some shows. I might have to retire it now if I say it on the podcast, but I usually say that I do the Noah Freeman stuff mostly because I have a lot of credit card debt. And I got bills to pay. So the rest of the band is at home sleeping. I am out here paying off my credit card debt. So I typically so far have only done the Noah Freeman stuff in the meantime, just when I could. And, Kindred Valley goes through periods where that's like, that might be where Kindred Valley is booked 2 weeks straight. And so I don't do any Noah Freeman things. Right. But then, we have times like these past couple months, we've just been booking weekends and little stints here and there. So it's kind of easy to book Noah Freeman stuff around that. I would certainly like to be doing more. I think it makes it a lot easier to be booking more shows if you have like an album or more projects out. And right now I just have the 2 singles. So it's a little bit hard to like convince a band to like, hey, I've got an hour's worth of material if the only thing they can find is like 8 minutes worth. So I'm planning on working on an album. Or not planning on working. It's almost done. It should be done. I don't know what time this is supposed to come out, but should be done hopefully before the end of the summer. And we've been working on that with the same guys that are in Kindred Valley. It's produced the same way that we did the Kindred Valley one, just maybe with a little more experience, I guess. Jaden, our producer's bedroom closet, still just grinding things out right there at home with the same guys who did all the Kindred Valley stuff. And we're looking to get that done. Like, I think all the stuff's recorded, if I'm not mistaken. I just settled on the final artwork yesterday, actually. So we're nearing the final stages.
Cool. Because, you have the 2 singles, and I was like, I just feel like he's just about ready.
Yeah. So this next album is mostly things that sound like those 2 singles. And it's a whole narrative album. I'm very into the concept album. I don't know if I'm even able to write one that's not a concept album. But I was very inspired by Willie Nelson's Red-Headed Stranger album and how it's just kind of one continuous story. It's very self-referential. He hooks back into some of the same lines a lot. It's a very country album. And I wanted to do an album just kind of like that, and so that's what we did. And then somewhere along the way, it took our own sort of spin on it that it was been taken, and I'm sure you'll hear that whenever you hear the album. It's definitely our own version, but it's a narrative album. It's called Ballad of a Liar and the Story He Tells, and it'll follow one guy all the way through his journey from the beginning. Whenever we meet him and sort of like an introduction, I think of things cinematically, like sort of like a movie scenes, but we'll intro to him and then be with him all the way up until the final credits with like a whole sort of like post credit scene and everything song. So I'm very excited. And then the next album is going to continue his story and be even weirder in a whole different direction. So we will see. We've already started working on that one.
That actually sounds really cool because, like, I'm like, the first thing that popped in my head was rock opera, kind of thing. But it, basically basically acoustic, standard country type, sound.
Yeah. It's very much, it's a little more electric than probably Red-Headed Stranger would have ever tried to be. But it's, I would say that I can't help but do a little bit of weird stuff with my album. So we've got like one song that we recorded not too long ago, and I put a banjo track down on it. And then we recorded it through an amp with like a bunch of weird settings and filters and effects on it. So it's definitely, I would describe it as like an Appalachian Western album, but it's definitely got my flavor of just a little bit of cosmic space and that sort of psychedelic country thing going on with it as well.
That's cool, man. I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you. I'll have to send you some of the stuff after, exclusive. You'll get that. Yeah, I'll let you hear some of what we've been working on.
Awesome. That's great. I definitely want to hear it. But you're pretty much dyed in the wool Kindred Valley for the time.
Yeah. I mean, it would kind of take an act of God, especially since my band is also the members of Kindred Valley. So it would have to work out for those guys as well. They wouldn't just, I don't know if they would even let me jump ship at this point. But not a thing in the world. Those guys are really, Blake, Rachel, Jaden, and Brett. I mean, those guys are family to me, and we're really committed to this thing. And, it's been working out so far. I mean, you always wonder, like, there was a weird period of time where it's like, should we just all be doing our own thing? Like, are we just going to be done after this album and try it out? But I think the more we keep going, the more I can't see myself not doing Kindred Valley. So I'm in it for the long haul.
Called out into the dark. I heard no sound, no bird, no lark. I've lost my reins, missed my mark. Would you come around when you're in town? You're leaving these airways of haunting sound. Some hellish hell. Red eyes, sharp teeth. Oh, gonna strike me down.
So let me ask you. So you got you had the first album, and then you have the EP, and what was left? What explain that?
Yeah, so I think if I'm interpreting the chuckle a little bit, it's the "What Was Left" title. It really was just kind of like what we had left post writing the first album. we like released the first album and then almost immediately wrote like 5 songs. And I was like, dang, should we put these? We had kicked around this idea, and I think even announced it at one point, that we were going to do a deluxe version of the album, and we were going to put those on there. And the more we kept recording the songs and playing them, the more they just all kind of felt like their own separate thing that we'd been doing. And so then we were like, well, this was supposed to be what was left. And I think someone was like, that's what we're going to call it.
Okay, I feel like I picked up on that because honestly, especially when I bought the record itself, that A side is Murderer's Row, man. I mean, seriously, even through to the Crossroads Live. And when I heard those, I listened to the first record and I liked it and there were standouts. And then I got to the next one and it was just boom, 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 those first 3 songs. And I'm like, what happened?
Thank you.
What was the shift? Because honestly, the sound, you definitely got a bigger sound packed in there some kind of way.
And that's a great question. That's a great question. Because, talking to like that process of like figuring out, you mentioned like A side being really, really, I appreciate that because we were specifically like this A side would go great if we put it together like this. But there's a process now that we kind of have with putting together projects that we didn't have before. I mean, that first album, and this is something that I've talked about on a lot of interviews so far, so I'll try to make it short and sweet, I guess. But, that first album was just a collection of songs that we wrote we'd never played live, never put out an album, didn't know people who'd put out an album, didn't know what we were doing. We were just putting out some songs that we had written. So we didn't structure the album in a way that we thought, like, at least not to my knowledge, I didn't. And I wasn't there for any conversations where we did. As far as I know, we just kind of like picked an order that we thought was okay and put it up. And so now I think, that comparison is more of like a comparison of, where we are now and sort of like how we try to mine these projects. The first album, I agree. Maybe, there's some really, really good songs and some that like, I'm sure that that song is good there's a song in there for everybody. But I think now in terms of like creating an album, there's much more of an art that we're trying to hit where it's like almost like a playlist. When I love making playlists for people and really thinking about like, okay, it's going to hit a high right here. And then we're going to step you down. I'll throw in a podcast episode there too if you need if you're cool with it. But I think we're all a lot more minded now about what is the listener's experience, not just all our friends and our family are going to listen to these songs that we wrote and they're going to spin them a couple times out of pity. I mean, now we're like, oh, a bunch of people might be listening to this. So like, what's that going to be like? Should we take you high, and then low? Do we make the A side all barn burners and then the B side love songs, or do you intersplice them? Things like that. There's a lot more process that where before we were just kind of slapping it all in there.
And it's like when you said you look at things cinematically.
Yes,
I mean, and it is kind of you want that record to be an experience, not necessarily just I want the singles and here's the chaff in between. That people might consider that, right?
Yeah, and that with the vinyl especially, there's tracks that are on that vinyl that we aren't releasing and have no plans to. I don't even know if the files exist on anybody's computer anymore. So these are tracks that are special that we added, and we were able to have a little bit more fun with those because we have a little bit more material to work with here and how we lay this out. And so we were actually able to lay it out in a little bit different of a way than it's presented online. And those vinyl have recently sold out. So yeah, who knows when we'll buy them again. So if you have one, just hold on to it.
I do have one. It was the one I got. It was
because I have no idea when we will. I think there's plenty up on the online store now, but as far as physical copies that we have here, we're all out. And I loved putting that album together just because the first one we pretty much ordered the first vinyl that we were able to, and it's still a good product. I still believe in it. But that second one is like a gatefold, and we put together special art. I mean, we made special art for the inside. And that was really, I think we had all seen the first vinyl, and saw how much people liked holding this physical version of it and having something special to connect with. And we were like, it would be all of our favorite vinyls have special things where I moved my vinyl over there. I would have pulled one out, but all my favorite vinyl have special things that are added in them that you wouldn't know unless you bought the physical edition. And the adding tracks on there, like there's a demo that we're never gonna put out. There's a few live tracks that were recorded right here in this room. So I love adding things like that. It feels like it creates this special sort of establishment with the fans as well. Whenever they come up and they mention like, hey, I heard the live version, I'm like, hey, that was my house, that we recorded at my house. You know what I mean? There's a special connection that you have that's built on something more than just like, I saw your TikTok.
That live version of Crossroads, man, is so. I'm gonna circle back around to this. So I'm gonna go back in time a little bit for you. You did another podcast. I think it was Roots Music Rambler.
Yeah.
Okay. And he compared you guys to, say, a folk music Fleetwood Mac. And I wasn't sure or not, but I just, by listening, I felt like maybe you weren't into that. You were you didn't like to be compared or.
Yeah. So I certainly, I love mostly my hesitation with the Fleetwood Mac is I'm not into all that drama. We're all doing well. And I love Fleetwood Mac. They're actually one of my favorite bands. But there is sort of, I think you'll find, I probably do reflexively flinch at getting compared just because I worry about like, oh, didn't they have that one? I have this backlog of like, maybe I didn't like this song that they did, or like, well, no, we do this and they do that. Like, it's easy for an artist to sit and instantly be like, well, no, here's all the ways we're different, because you're intimately aware of how you're different. But other people, I tried to just take it as a compliment, because people are really trying to tell you that like, hey, you're like this thing that I like. And so now artists typically don't like it. I'm trying to change that about myself. I'm trying to just be like, oh, that's sweet. Thank you for thinking of me compared to your favorite thing or a thing that you like.
So then we'll go into folk music. I mean, that's what you all do. That's what you love. Is it always going to be that, or do you think it would morph into something else? Or
it's weird because, on the solo work, I definitely ascribe myself to be a country artist. Hard. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, I'm a country artist. I want you to call me a country artist. I don't want to be I'm not a rock artist. I'm not a folk artist. Yada, yada, yada. That's what I call myself. And I still get people who are still like, oh, that rock song you did was great. And I'm like, So it's with the folk thing. I think as long as what we continue to be called as folk will be folk. But I think the sound will evolve regardless. I see us going, a million different directions. And it's really kind of like we at times sit and wonder like, well, we could just do this whole album like this style, or we could it's weird kind of the process that it takes, or the life that it takes. And you're kind of these last second decisions that get made that totally shape the way that the song is. Like some of the saddest songs ever get just put over to a happy tune, and all of a sudden it's not the slow sad acoustic song that you were singing a couple months ago on stage. It's now this like upbeat electric song. As far as like bigger sound, I think in order to maintain the bigger sound, you have to add, or we're going to add, maybe a little more electric component to it. But I don't know what folk is, honestly. I feel like someone gives me a different definition all the time.
Honestly, if you really, really think about it, all music is folk music.
Yeah.
Because it's made for the folk that it's made for. It's all telling a story. I mean, seriously, but I mean, you have a regional sound to what you all grew up with. I mean, bluegrass, I consider folk music, but it's folk music of Kentucky for me, Yeah. When the guy said that you were folk music Fleetwood Mac, I'm like, oh, he's never heard Holy Locust.
They're
And I
great.
mean that
Yeah.
that is folk music, Fleetwood Mac right
Yeah.
there, man. They are
Yeah.
swampy as shit, and they're good. But
Yeah, it's all yeah, and it's always just based on the person who's saying it too. You know what I mean? People tell us all the time that we're like if we go really up north, and this is no hate to the people all the way up north, they will call us bluegrass, like hardcore bluegrass a lot of the times, and it's just kind of like sure. I mean, I'm never going to tell those people that they're wrong, but I get, and to some degree, it's in the eye of the beholder a little bit.
bluegrass has a different tempo to it.
Yeah,
It's a little quicker.
yeah,
Um, so may I make what I would call my comparison?
yeah, absolutely.
So when I heard your first album, I was like, I don't know why anyone who say likes the Lumineers wouldn't like this. Would you think that's fair?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, the Lumineers is probably the one that we get the most, especially from that first album. Sound a lot. It's like Fiddler on the Floor feels like, and I don't know if artists are supposed to say this or not. I didn't write it. Fiddler on the Floor feels like a Lumineer song to me. Like it feels very much like the same vibe, driving down like a highway with your windows down, road trip sort of feeling. I think that we captured that feeling a lot on the first album, and I think that that's not without. That's on purpose, if you ask me.
Yeah. But here's the thing where my comparison is probably going to start to vary. And this is when I hear like those first three songs of the EP. And then there's even some songs, we'll say in the middle of the first album. Man, y'all start to kind of sound like you could be the Revivalists.
Oh yeah, I can get that vibe.
Yeah, and then you proved me right when I heard the Crossroads live. And I was like, this is it. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Earlier, you were talking about regional influences, and I think as much as there are regional influences, there's also the influences of having 6 different people in a band, and like you have Jaden and Brett who are kind of into like punk music, and you have me who like I grew up on hardcore country music, like traditional country music, rock music, and then blues, and even like I had a lot of other influences that aren't necessarily what they do. And Blake grew up on folk and real Americana type music. And there's other weird pull branches that we all pull from. And like Rachel was really into like Jason Isbell and some of these like really great songwriters. And so there's the regional influences of us all liking different forms of like Appalachian music, but then there's also these weird subsections where like everybody has their weird genre that they like. And so I think that that's why so much gets pulled in, is because a lot of crossover happens on like the swamp rock, the southern rock genre. Like a lot of us really just can't help but, I don't know if that's like an Appalachian southern thing where you just can't help but like holler and hoop to some swampy chords or anything like that, but Red Clay Strays pulled that sound off phenomenally. There's just something about that kind of music that makes you want to burn something down.
Right.
And I like making that kind of music. I want to be the one who makes the, like, especially in 1921, I want to be your soundtrack for getting rowdy.
Yeah, I mean, shit, 1921, Crossroads. I mean, those two songs they are rowdy. I like them. Other things that stand out. I mean, you have, you're on the lighter side. I mean, you've got stuff like Riverbed and The Wedding Song and whatnot, and they're all very pretty but they're good, I like that as well. But it was, I never even heard of Kindred Valley until I had saw you, and you said you were in Kindred Valley, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to check them out and see what they're all about. And here we are today. I really, really think that there's something on the horizon for you, and I'm not just blowing smoke at you on that.
Well, thank you, man.
I listen to a lot of music. I mean, I'm one of those people. Spotify says, "How do you find the time?" I'm like my grandpa. I just turn it down. Yeah. But man, I hear something. And I listen to like most kinds of music that there is. I really think that you guys have got a really good sound, and I think big things are ahead of you.
Thank you. Well, I think that there's something to be said about being in a band, and I think that's part of why I'm not. It would be really hard for me to ever just go out and do solo without having all those guys committed behind me. Because you know, I get the cool thing now is to do solo work and to be the guy who stands in the field and sings the song by yourself or whatever. But I don't know. Those guys had me when no one else did. You know what I mean? We were doing it for free, actually at cost. It was costing us money there for a minute, but doing it with other people, you're able to achieve a lot more. I don't know how people do it by themselves, aside from just like hiring people to help them with it. Because like, there were times whenever the booking was too much for me, and I was just like, can someone else please do this? And now Blake does it or did it all the time. And so, and you're able to achieve a lot bigger of a sound. It's easier to make these songs stand out more, even if it's easier to make yourself stand out more whenever these songs drastically change from song to song because you have drums and a bass. And I don't think people are willing to invest in each other anymore because it's a big risk. It's a big risk to go out and like say like, well, I'm going to go out with what are these essentially strangers outside of usually our relationship with music. And we're going to try to make something together. I mean, I didn't know these guys super well before we decided to start playing music together. So it felt like we were investing a lot in each other whenever we went out. But because you're doing that, nobody's willing to jump ship just for the heck of it. You know what I mean? You've got something in this. You can't just quit. And so I think that more people, even if it's not a band, I think more people investing in each other. I think you'll find a lot of more enrichment in your life if you just take a risk on people.
I absolutely agree. I noticed though, like at the show that I attended, family was a big feeling that was there. So I mean, I definitely get that from y'all for
Yeah.
sure, and that probably is as close as you can get, without being, because there's a lot of competition, in the music business.
Right.
Everybody's kind of trying to be the crab on top of the bucket, and y'all just seem to mesh pretty well.
Yeah. And family is a good word. I mean, literally our families are like intermerged in a way that like Rachel's dad is my merch guy. Um, and I have before the band, I have no relationship with those guys. And so we've kind of intertwined all of our lives in some ways to like, Blake and Nikki and that's Blake's wife, Blake, Nikki, and my wife, Nat, we all used to go to bingo every Monday night at a local bar here in town. I mean, like there's a lot of ways in which your lives become entangled, maybe in a way that you wouldn't have like preferred. Like I don't prefer to know what Brett has for lunch every single day for like a week. I don't need to know his sheets order, have it memorized. Like those are things that I don't necessarily care to know or to like to have memorized. But there are ways in which that it's intertwined that I can't imagine my life without now. I mean, like those guys got me into chess. We're all playing chess now. Just like little things like that like from now on, every time I play chess, it's because I was in Kindred Valley because I'm a significantly better musician. These are all things that like wouldn't have probably happened otherwise. I met so many amazing people that I feel like it like could prove the existence of divine creation. Like that's how much I love these people. Wouldn't have met them without first investing in some other people in a band, just for the heck of it to put out a record. So, I mean, I think, taking a chance on each other and we just accept that we're not always going to get along like a family would. And that doesn't just have to apply to family. You can just be kind of like, hey, you're kind of ticking me off today. What that thing you said was annoying. And you'll get over it. It's fine. Like just like in the same way that you would with your brother, you can get over it if you just establish that relationship. Like we just at one day sat down and we were just like, can we just agree that we're all in it for the long haul? Yeah. Okay. So then can we all start speaking to each other like we would mom and dad and brother, sister, and just saying like, hey, that thing that you're doing, it's not cool, or I don't like it, or can we sit down? And it's actually made it to the point now to where I feel like we agree on most things without even having to talk about it, because there's this clear line of communication. I know what Jaden thinks because Jaden usually tells me. So now I'm kind of familiar with his thought patterns, yada, yada, yada.
You know what everybody's boundaries are, just, I mean,
I know when you need to press. I know when someone's being a little ridiculous. I know when someone's, actually having a moment, yada, yada. Things like that. Like if Blake's having a bad day, I'm not going to keep pressing him on why he wants us to stop by Zaxby's again for like the third time this week. Maybe we'll just let him go to Zaxby's this time. Maybe Buddy needs it.
Did you grow up with a lot of siblings or?
So I did, or not a lot. I grew up in a big family, one younger brother and a cousin who lived with us from middle school on that I just call an older brother. I say I became the middle child about halfway through. I became a middle child in the middle of my childhood because he kind of moved in with us, and but love him like a brother. But I grew up in a family, like a massive family, tons of cousins, and we were always running around each other's houses and things like that.
Okay, yeah, it probably helped with the dynamic of the band, especially.
Yeah, especially, I mean, like it's mostly guys. We just like rag on each other and then get over it.
Yeah, poor Rachel probably just has to deal with.
We take it a little easier on her. We try to.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, but she came from a family of brothers, so she can hang with the rest of us. She's been well equipped for it.
So you all are touring mostly through the summer, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, we are still finishing up some booking for July and August right now, but I think most of our dates up to that point have been posted already.
Okay. And then what's, music-wise, what's on the horizon for Kindred Valley?
Yeah, we are working on recording a lot of stuff right now. So we're in the middle of things growing, so we're not releasing anything right now just because we're trying to weigh our options and see, there's before you put anything out, you're just supposed to, I guess, shop it. I guess that old-fashioned way, that's still a thing that you do. So we're still working on some things and seeing who might be interested in a larger project, but we're trying to work on some smaller singles, smaller projects, things like that to put out in the meantime to satiate people. But I think it'll be, at least in the meantime, the more immediate songs that come out will probably be more in the same vein of what we have been doing, because any larger transformations we would kind of like to achieve over like an album. We're a lot more like harkening back to the conversation we were having earlier about the vinyl. We want to be a lot more mindful of like, how do we structure this album? We don't just want to put the songs we've been writing on it. We want to write 50 songs and narrow it down to the best 10 or 12, something like that.
Fit together the best possible way.
Yeah, sure. We might like 40 of them, but which ones really achieve the thing that we want here is where more we're at. We might release a few singles just to make sure people don't get mad at us for not releasing music in the meantime, though.
I tell you what, I'm gonna stream of consciousness a plug here. Have you ever listened to the record "Feel Good" by Jamie Wyatt?
I have not.
Oh my gosh, that record is constructed perfectly. I mean, it is like it starts up A side and then finishes like amazingly. I'm like, that was well built right there.
What's the album name?
Feel Good by Jamie Wyatt.
Okay, I will be listening to that one. I just love a well put together album.
Yeah, it's. I think it was one of the Black Pumas produced it for her. So I'm
nice.
sure that. Yeah,
yeah, it'd be hard to make a bad album that way.
You would think, right?
Yeah.
So you're just you're like you said, shopping it around.
Yeah.
Just songs here and there. That's kind of funny that you say that, because like whenever we're at shows, my wife and I, which we attend quite a few, but if by the time one of us hears the second new song, one of us will be like, they're shopping a new album, Yep.
Yeah, because you don't want to play them too early, because you don't want them to be out before they're kind of or you don't want them to be underdeveloped and then get out there. I mean, it's fine if you go and change a lyric or a line or two, but you don't want to be like this is a whole different song except for that one lyric you played for us at Duke's Indy that one time. You kind of want to, but by the time you're playing them out live, you kind of want to see it. And now that this is a formed song, do people like it? Are y'all liking this? Would y'all like this if it went on a record? And you can kind of like, yeah, we're testing. We're definitely testing it out, and we're going to be doing a little bit. We've been mostly testing out some of the more acoustic, like slower ones, but we're trying to put a full band to them here soon and like expand some of these even bigger. So hopefully we'll be having some of those out and doing even more of it sooner. We'll start rotating some of them in.
Okay. So where can folks go to find out everything they need to know about Kindred Valley and Noah Freeman?
Yeah, so Kindred Valley and Noah Freeman are available at the same places, everywhere you listen to streaming. And if not, you can email me or the Kindred Valley email, and I'll make sure it gets to you. But that's Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music. We have physical media. Kindred Valley has physical media available on kvband.com, and that's where you can buy a vinyl or a CD if you'd like, or come out to a show. We'd also love to meet you and say hey, and you can find schedules for those things on Bands in Town. Kindred Valley is pretty active on there. Our Facebook page and our Instagram pages are always posting our big tour schedules. We like to post, like, at the beginning of the month, we'll post all the places we're going for that month on one big tour. And then before that, though, we'll post like the whole tour schedule. We're doing them in quarters. So we'll have like our monthly schedule that we release at the beginning of every month. So just keep an eye out for those to find shows near you. That's really, my preferred way of, there's 65,000 listeners on Spotify, and the majority of those people are not the ones who are coming to the shows. You know what I mean? The people who are coming to the shows those are the hardcore people. I love y'all that listen only on Spotify, but whenever I see y'all at shows, it's a whole other level. Getting to meet you, I was really disappointed we couldn't do this next one in person at Duke's Indy. But man, it's just so difficult to make tour routing stuff work and getting in contact. Yeah, I was super, super ill. And I was like, damn it. And Pat was going to let us do it in the green room and everything, man. It would have looked pretty cool. But, hey, at least, and then I caught up with you in Louisville. Yeah.
But, that was like 2 ships in the night. But at least I got to see your show, because then there was also the canceled show in between there somewhere. So
yes, yeah, it was. But, it's I love meeting people at the shows. It helps to put a face to a name and really get to meet the people who've been listening. And I love whenever people talk about the songs that they like, or the lyrics, or the things that they like, or the things that they pick up on, because sometimes they're enlightening me on things that I would have never guessed. And like even you saying that West Virginia is interpreted as like a blue collar place, I didn't know that about us. I could see why people would think that, but it's enlightening to know that like songs convey that, and maybe the way that I carry myself conveys that, because that is certainly what I'm trying to achieve. And so please, if you come out to a show, please come up and talk and tell us what you hated or what you liked, what you picked up on, because I'm always trying to gather that stuff from people, because I feel like it makes a more meaningful connection with the audience if I know what they're thinking about the things that we're doing.
Mm-hmm. And absolutely, and I highly recommend a live show. But I'm the type of person, I like a live show anyway, because it makes the music real for me.
Yeah,
it doesn't. It's not electronic digits, pouring through my speakers. It's real. I can feel it. It is different, but if you can't make it to a show, please listen to Kindred Valley. They got a big sound, for sure. And the show is, even when you got songs about murder, it's still a feel good show.
Yeah, I think that there's this sort of like separation that a lot of people have. We certainly still, there's no illusion up there for us on stage. We are all aware that we're all a bunch of dorks. And if you only knew like how dorky these guys get, and they would probably say the same thing about me. And just how weird we can all be. But like, you're trying to convey something up there on stage. And I think what we try to do is like, even if we're singing about murder, we want this to be kind of a show for everybody. We got songs about loving people. We got songs about murder. We got songs about standing up for against coal mines. I like to think that there really is something for everybody at the show, and so if there's going to be something for everybody, it's got to be a good time. You know, what does everybody like, and that's a good time. Everybody might not like barn burners. Everybody might not like wedding songs, but everybody likes to have a good time, and that's something that you can achieve with like an environment. And you're right, like the live show is something else. It makes it real. Nothing to hide behind usually, and so yeah. If you can't listen, if you can't make it out, please listen. We've got a few live performances actually out on YouTube. If you still want to see that energy get captured in the room, I think that those are the next best thing. I love recorded live shows. So we've got a few of those videos out, a few live performances on YouTube.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to close it out right here. And ladies and gentlemen, please listen to Kindred Valley anywhere you stream or make it to a show. You won't be disappointed whatsoever. I really appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Hey, what's happening, folks? I just wanted to jump in here real quick for the credits to just make an announcement that we're going to play the Crossroads live version that we referred to in the podcast. This can only be found on vinyl. You can go to kvband.com and pick that up there, or go to a show. It's a great version. I'm going to place a little piece of it through the credits. I hope you sit through it and have a great day.
I was walking at a crossroads when the devil came my way. He said, I just came in from Georgia. How'd you like to make a deal today? I said, slow, yo, what can you do for me? Because from all the stories I've been told, got a bad history. And he said, son, boy,